Que tú tiras y jalas y que bien todo compones. Mentiras tuyas, solo mentiras, porque en el barrio hay mucha alegría.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Jose Candelario here. We're keeping it 100 with Jose Candelario on New Haven Independent Radio 103.5 FM, WNHH, NewHavenIndependent.org, and all platforms streaming the podcast. And today I have with me yet again, because the conversation continues, it doesn't stop because there's only one time, Mr. Rodney Williams. Thank you, Rodney, for taking the time to come out today.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
And like always, we like talking about our favorite subject, which is our community. And we talk about education. We talk about various topics offline, but we're some things that we need to be discussing here online, and that's why we come out to the radio. And bless you guys. What's on your mind, Rodney? Right off the rip, what's on your mind?
I think what's on my mind right now is just honestly, it's still the youth. They're our future. I think the focus really need to be heavily on how we save some of the kids that's out there and how we create a future for them. But part of creating a future is getting them to understand that they somewhat control their future too. Like we could give them good advice, but they need to believe in
themselves.
Yeah, and believe in the fact that what we're telling them, they need to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that, multiple things we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the crime that's going on in the city, the gun violence. There's a lot of shooting going on, and a lot of youth are shooting each other. I think that one of the things when you look at the crime, I think they need the governor. I don't know if it's possible for him to do some executive type law where we could change the bonds, because if you look at the fact that you get pulled over with a gun, you could bond right out and go get another gun. I think that they should put the bonds higher, or put no bonds.
Wow, that's that. We were talking earlier about having solutions to problems, and I think because there's the other one was stop and frisk, reinstituting that temporarily, but you're saying policy-wise is more important to have an executive order. I think that's the term that we're looking for, right? Executive order from the governor to increase bonds. I mean, and especially when it comes to possession. Yeah. Just possession of the firearms, it should cost you a lot more and penalty-wise, so that you won't repeat the offense. Similar thing when they did the ATVs, right? The ATVs, when that fine went up.
Yeah, the fine went up.
What happened to those ATVs?
They stopped them. They talked about the gas stations can't sell gas. I just think that some things that need to happen in our community, I don't think that black people alone are capable of making change. I think that when you look what happened to George Floyd, it was a combination of black people and white people coming together saying that this is wrong, that we need to change. Now, although it's not the white kids that are being killed in the communities, it's us, I still feel like we need white people to help us save our kids. We need them to help us create change to help save them. And there will be some parents that feel like, why you put a high bond, blah, 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 blah. But then there's some parents that lost their kids. That's going to say that if the bonds were there before, would my son be alive? So
that's the choice we have to make. That's the choice we ultimately have to make as a community. Is it going to, do we put our children first now, or do we wait till later and then complain that we need to do something about something?
Yeah, well, I feel like right now, let's stop complaining.
And let's do something.
Yeah.
And that policy, and you're always a big policy individual. You're always talking about policy, and you're always talking about making moves that way. And I think that when people are out there need to understand when it comes to politics and when you're voting for someone, you're not just voting for someone because they might make a promise, a campaign promise, might give you a job or get some money in your pocket. But more importantly, are the people that you're electing have the ability to change policy, to do something that we're requesting right now, which, that you're suggesting, which is bringing up the bonds for people that are get pulled over for possession.
Well, the other thing is when you talk about a lot of crime going on in our community, a lot of gun violence, a lot of shooting, and nobody's not really saying nothing, but they're complaining about the violence. One way for them to stop the violence is to target the groups of people that they know are committing the violence and pull them over. But a lot of people feel like their rights are being violated.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's a fine line between stop and frisk.
So we got to understand, like, are we trying to tell the cops to do something that's impossible? Like, how do you prevent this from happening without having a way to catch them with the guns? So I say to this community, like,
I mean, and what you're saying is not popular. It's not popular what you're trying to say.
No,
which
it ain't popular. But to me, the parents that lost their kids, and the parents that kids gonna get shot in the future, because if this don't change, the list just gonna get bigger. They appreciate what I'm saying. Maybe the kid parent that they get jammed up, maybe they don't appreciate what I'm saying.
And through our conversations that I've had with many individuals of our community, especially the ones that came up through Newhallville and the Hill, sometimes getting jammed up is not necessarily a bad thing. It might be that point in which turns somebody's life around. So they might get caught with that gun, but maybe that keeps them from shooting someone, doing really major time, and there's a good enough scare that they make a decision that's a little bit different the next time.
Well, there's a difference in having a seat and you being in a grave. And I'm sure that some of the parents that lost their kid understand that there's a big difference in you being killed and you going to jail. And I'm sure there's nobody that I know that lost a kid that was out in the street involved in violence who if they had an opportunity for their kid to go to jail instead of getting killed, would say, let him get killed. And that's keeping it 100.
For those who are listening right now, this is Keeping It 100 with Jose Candelario. I'm sitting here with Rodney Williams. New Haven Independent 103.5 FM is what you're listening to, WNHH, and we're having this conversation about solutions in our community with the recent rash of violence that we've had and how to curtail that. And some of the suggestions Rodney is putting forward may not be popular with some people, but is necessary, and it is true. It's better. I do feel like a life is very, very well worth it. You're listening to Keeping It 100 with Jose Candelario here on 103.5 FM, WNHH, NewHavenIndependent.org. We are chatting it up with Mr. Rodney Williams on some real serious topics. We're covering some solutions on the violence here that's been happening in New Haven, especially involving the youth, saving the youth. Great point there with the bond issue. Great point now with maybe we do need to cast that net out and try to start taking some of these guns off of the streets. Very, very impactful. What's next?
Well, let me tell you why it's important.
Go ahead.
If you go back over the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of shooting going on Wall Street. If you follow what's going on over the amount of bullets that was actually shot out there, over 28 bullets, and the fact that you got women and kids out there, while people just riding by, hanging out over the window shooting. I don't know any resident that would be against the cops ramping up to get guns off our streets, especially when people riding by and shooting at innocent people. Are there going to be people that's going to complain? Yes, and the truth is, we always going to have people that's going to complain. And to be honest with you, a lot of the people that will complain, it might be because their kids might be involved in some of the activities that's actually happening in this city. And right now it's time to, talk about solutions. And the solution is that
higher bonds. Higher bonds on people that get put over.
The cops already got a list. They need to get a board going up. They know who's who, and You know what I mean? They need to just get a task force put together and identify so-called shooters in the city of New Haven, and they just need to have cops just follow them. When they do right on red, they do whatever. You know what I mean? No blinker. You pull them over, and you know, hopefully we can get some of these guns off the street.
So but the minor infractions you think will lead to, you know, if you pull them over for that blinky, the tail light out, you think that in certain specific neighborhoods that will lead to at least, you know, some you know, unreported guns that can be found like that?
It'll lead to that, but what I'm trying to get everything to lead to is that the youth stop carrying these guns like they're carrying them, and these random shootings bringing it down. And I would tell you it should be a pilot program, because the truth is this: when you talk about a solution that you feel might work, let's try it. And if it don't work, then prove me wrong. But it will work.
No, that's the thing.
It will work.
Growing up, it was a big inconvenience for me because I used to drive a Honda Civic and with tinted windows, and it was loud, and I would get pulled over periodically. I would say, even into my 30s, I was getting pulled over in New Haven once or twice. That died out after a while, I guess, because of the national movement against it and the procedures being a little pushed down. But now, now as an adult, I kind of see why they were pulling me over consistently, because I did fit the description, and who would have known what I was carrying in my car at the time? I mean, I could see that now differently than back then.
Well, I think two things also need to happen. There were officers that was working for departments and stuff that I feel I'm not gonna say they were racist, but they did have something against some black.
They were discriminating. There was a certain level of discrimination
yes,
amongst the police officers. Yes.
It was that, and I think the community need to look at if you want to control how we are policed, because we always gonna need a police department until the crime and some of these things in our community actually stop happening. Then we could talk about less police and less cops. But right now, the focus should be on identifying kids in our community that are capable of being on the police department, because then you're talking about the community being policed by
the community.
And when you pulling me over, how you treat me, you're right. Some officers pull you over and they treat you disrespectfully.
Yes.
But we're in a bad spot because people in our community are doing things that a lot of the community want to stop. And officers we got, some of them are disrespectful. But we need to use them to stop what's happening.
So you are correct, because it is one thing for you to do, to stop and frisk, but in a very polite, respectful manner. Right. And that's what the chief always talks about is relationship, right? That relationship with the police and the community. That's why they need to be out there to know who it is that they're pulling over, or at least try to establish a relationship once they're pulled over, versus pulling them over and then just using the power over that individual.
Yeah. So we talking solutions.
Yep.
And we talking problems. Majority of the shootings happen near complexes. And the complexes that they happen to be happening by
low income,
but these complexes are making a lot of money, and some of the complexes are ran by housing authority or big time investors. I think that the investors, for safety purposes for their tenants, they need to upgrade their camera system. When crimes like this and the shootings tick up like this, they need to get in touch with the police and not hire regular security. They should hire off-duty officers, because the safety of the resident should be number one.
And lights. I mean, we're talking about three things that are big. Lights,
camera, action.
Lights, camera, and action. There you go.
Because listen, with some lighting and some camera, any action that go down, it's on.
It's there. And you got you see who is doing it. You see, and that's also a deterrent. I mean, I remember Orchard Street used to be dark back in the day, and they made that initiative to light up that whole Orchard Street area. That did curtail a lot of violence just by lighting it up. Yeah. But because people are now they're being watched, and a watched person acts differently.
We do not have enough police officers in the city of New Haven to monitor all the activity that's going on in this city. And at the end of the day, we should not be blaming the officers of the PD for not catching everybody. It's so much going on.
Yeah. I mean,
It's ridiculous.
2 Saturdays ago, there was a shooting at Orchard. Then a couple hours later, there was one on Shelton.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like back to back to back. And so you're telling me that when they responded to Orchard Street, there were about 10 cop cars there.
But I need to tell you this, like, when you talk about the shootings of the cars and stuff that was going on in New Orleans, come to find out the cameras over there wasn't actually working. So that's a problem too.
The cameras, which cameras are we talking about?
The cameras that they have up, the city have up, that police department monitor for activities, they was not working to the point where you know there's crimes that's going on, but they're not seeing what's really going on. And I think that's the other thing that need to be talked about on this platform right here. Like, where exactly are the cameras in the city? Which ones are not working, and why they not working? Because the truth is, I'm sure the cameras and some of the communities.
Let me tell you, this would not be happening if it were Times Square. If this were London, because London and Times Square are the two most surveyed areas in the world. There's cameras everywhere in Times Square. You can't do anything in Times Square right now without being watched.
You can't do nothing by Yale.
You can't do nothing but Yale. You're right. Yale is heavily.
I just feel like
camera.
The city always want Yale to donate money. To me, I would tell you that a good investment. If they say Yale's slogan is "What's good for New Haven is good for Yale."
Mm-hmm. Well,
they love saying that.
They love saying that.
What I'm saying is that if that's the case, what's good for New Haven is that if Yale donated some money, because a lot of times they donate money, you don't know where that money going. But if Yale donates some money and they control payment of the cameras and the locations, you know what I mean? That would be a great thing.
Mm-hmm, because those blue boxes are popping up in New Hallville.
Yeah,
their phones are there.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing.
Why can't we have the cameras then?
Yeah, that'd be a great thing. Invest in bringing down the crime in the city of New Haven. It's a good investment. It's good for New Haven, and it's good for Yale.
It's good for everyone. And considering that Yale owns most of New Haven anyway, I don't think it should be a problem to have cameras around all their facilities. And because that is a major a crime area right there too, is a Farmington Canal. Yeah. That everyone's always getting jacked, phones and purses are always snatched, but there's no cameras. There's nothing there to really.
I think the Farmington Canal, right, over the last couple of years, safety over there, the investment they put in there is, if you look at the stats on crime then and crime now, definitely because of the investment, the crime is definitely down, and there's more people actually using the canal because of them purposes, because they feel safe. I think that if you did the same type of investment in other communities, it would be the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And because people, like I said, I'm a firm believer when people are being watched, they act differently. They just made the decisions are different when they know that certain spots. And it's not like we don't know where these hotspots are in New Haven. It's not like we don't know who's involved, where they are, where they hang out. So it's not like, it's a surprise.
Yeah. The other two things that I want to touch bases on is, and it impacts the youth. It's about jobs, and it's about voting. And I think that the youth, I know that they always feel like I don't want to vote because my vote don't count. I think honestly, the youth in our country basically were brainwashed to believe that. If you look at the city of New Haven and the amount of youth that just now graduated from the high schools, that didn't go to college, that didn't go to the Air Force, that's actually trying to be part of a workforce in the city of New Haven. If you look at the amount of kids that actually living with their parents still, trying to figure out a way to have a future, if you take their numbers and you count them, there's something that some politicians don't want them to know. And that's that if they started voting, they could control
things would be different.
Who would get elected. I think politicians that are older, there's been in positions for a long time, they're not really concerned about the youth voting. when you talk about the definition of constituent is basically somebody that vote for you.
Yeah, yeah.
So you could be a resident in a ward that somebody's elected, but don't vote. You're not necessarily their constituent. They're not really concerned about what you really thinking because they know you don't vote.
And they don't come out in certain elections that are really important, which are the local elections between the president. I mean, the president voting was phenomenal. I mean, it was like 50% ratio. But on off years, it's down to like 10%, especially automatic races, where those decisions locally can be made and helped out, but those individuals are not participating locally.
Well, here's what I'm gonna tell, what I'm gonna say to the youth. I just ask that, just one time, just listen to what I'm saying to you just one time, and if you do what I say, and there's no change, you'll never have to listen to nothing I gotta say again in life.
Okay.
But I will guarantee you, I will promise you.
This is the Rodney Williams challenge right
Listen,
now.
I will promise you that if you went out and started to vote, and it's the parents too, because it's about their future. If you don't vote, you have no future. But I will guarantee you, if the politicians saw that it was a wave of youth starting to come out, they would have to stop. They follow numbers. They would have to stop. You do not have a platform. You do not have a voice because you do not vote.
There you go. And this goes also for the immigrant community.
Yeah.
If there's one person in that house, especially in a house of 10, and there's one person 18 and over that can vote, that person needs to be at the booth.
Yeah.
The whole family, all 10 of y'all need to be pushing this one person to that booth and vote, because in Fairhaven we have that issue too, where those people are our people, my people, our immigrant community is not listened to because supposedly they don't have a vote, but they vote by proxy. They have that one person. So make sure that one person gets out there. Give them the ride. Support them. And not only in major elections, but right now we got a primary coming up. I mean, and this is where the decisions are made.
Listen to what I'm saying. That even my relationship with you, I'm looking to identify even youth that I could ask you to put them up here and have them keep it 100, you too. Because my definition to keep them 100 at my age, and I might be on the same page with them on certain things, and I might not be. Only way to find out that is they need to be here and keep it 100 with you too. So I'm gonna tell you that right now, that's what I'm looking for, to help create a platform for the youth, so they can have a future. But you need to vote, and I guarantee you that if they saw the fact that the youth were coming out, trust me, and I tell you, the conversation that they're having now would change, and you would be part of the conversation. You are not part of the conversation because you do not vote.
Yep.
And it's about your future. It ain't about mine.
I need people to understand that some people are dissuaded out there, because their parents, the things they've seen in the past, my parents been voting forever, but nothing ever changed for them. Now is the time, I think more than ever, that change is totally possible. I mean, maybe it was tougher for our parents' generation, but right now in this day and age, the power is within the youth. They're the biggest voting pool that's not out there. It's non-existent. And it's not hard to go and vote. It's not hard to participate. There is a thing that as adults we need to do, which is inform the youth of the decisions that are out there to be made. Like if you're not aware that this is a decision to be made, then people don't know. Like our system does not educate people on the primary. Like how many people get involved in just primary voting?
Well, I'm gonna tell you the other thing that the youth need to look at, as far as their future and far as future leadership for them. I would tell the youth that when you're looking to identify leaders that you could follow, that you're capable of believing in, majority of them you need to make sure they don't have ties to either a city job or a state job. Because to be honest with you, most people who are in high positions that are tied to a job that can control what they say could only lead you to a certain level. Because if your job is tied to something where they could pull you to the side and be like, hey, you need to, pipe it down. It's about your money. That's why a lot that's going on with the black community, we're gonna keep it 100.
No,
We're gonna keep it 100.
Yep.
A lot of so-called leaders that are on top levels, they pick and choose the stuff they talk about, and they pick and choose some of the fights that they're involved in, and that's because their hands are tied. People could say they want to say about me. I get to the point where I'm not even gonna. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. But there's ain't nobody controlling. I know how to go make my own money, and I'm gonna be able to say what I need to say to this community, and I can stand up when others can't stand up. Because trust me, when you look around and you say, where's the help? The truth is we are the help. And the truth is that some people are put in position of leadership, and then they're controlled.
And that's a natural progression. I mean, people go get involved in campaigns. They go and they get involved in the vote, and then they land that cushy job or that but a nice position. Either you're working for the Rosa DeLauros or the Blumenthal's, or even just in DSS, the Department of Children and Family. You get a job within the system. And then they kind of like disappear. You are correct. Either they disappear or they try to maintain that leadership position, but then it's controlled. It's a controlled position because somebody's got the hand in their pocket, in their ear.
No, when they came up with the hammer and worked their way up, known for hitting you with the hammer, and then all of a sudden they ain't got no hammer. You're like, where they at?
They're disarmed.
Yeah. So I would tell you that the youth, it's about your future. A lot of people that's in position right now, our future is now. Like, it's time for the baton to be passed, and it's time for the youth to get involved, and it's about them. Some of the people that's actually still in power right now, they're old enough to be my grandmother. You know what I mean? I'm like, and these kids' future should not be decided by people that old. And I want you to know that.
And I respect that.
They need to come out just one time. And if I'm wrong, you'll never hear me say nothing again. But one thing I do know, I'm right about this. This is what they don't want you to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The voting is power and equals money and equals change in your community.
Especially when you're looking in New Haven.
And New Haven is only but so big, so your influence in New Haven is even greater.
When you need to look at New Haven, when you look at all these high-end apartments that are being built in the city, and people are actually moving into these apartments, and you trying to figure out where they're coming from, that's because there's jobs that are in this city that we don't know about, that people coming from out of town getting these jobs and moving into these high-end apartments. And at the end of the day, they're going to be residents in communities that they're going to be voting. And eventually, they're going to be voting to determine who the alders are. We have right now plenty black and Hispanics on the board of alders right now, but in the future,
that demographic is changing.
It's going to change. And when they look at what happened to the city of New Haven, and at one time it was majority controlled by black and Hispanics, but when you look at what's really going on in our city, and
the gentrification that's taking place.
I got kids, I got grandkids, and I just recently got a chance to move, but
there's a reason. There's a reason why you don't see low-income housing being built. Low-income housing that's for homeowners to purchase. There's a reason why that's not in the forefront. But yet you got these huge high-rises where rents are going to be for one bedroom. It could be a mortgage for a low income housing.
One thing I'm gonna touch too when you're talking about these properties and stuff that are being developed. there's developments going on in this city in certain communities, Black and Hispanic communities, that there should be more Black and Hispanic involvement. It should be more them working on the projects, and a lot of times when you see in Black and Hispanics, sometimes the Black and Hispanics that you see on these projects, they don't even live in New Haven.
Mm-mm. No, because there's no
They don't even
policy.
live in New Haven.
There's no rules that say
So-
that you get a city contract that you have to hire
But
people
some
within
of these
city
projects
limits.
ain't even city. They're private developers. But I'm gonna tell you right now, I happen to be riding on Dixwell Avenue, and I noticed that they started to move the project over there, Dow Brooks, and I want to tell them thank you, because one thing I did see the guys from Emerge out there working with the site guy, actually on site, helping get the site ready to be developed.
Nice.
So when you look at a project like that, right out the gate, you see
Collaboration.
yeah, you see dollars that's going to the community, that's going back. That right there is a good sign. You got some contractors, some developers that are they really concerned about putting Black and Hispanics on a job? And I'm not gonna stick too many people out on this show right now, but I will guarantee you that within the next 30 days, your time is coming. Like this city need to really know who are the contractors in this city that are willing to hire New Haven-based contractors, New Haven residents, because the truth is this: the future of the residents and the contractors of the city of New Haven going to be rough unless some of the people that got these jobs change how they move. And these young kids ain't got no future.
They have no future, and that's what we do need to, because it's all economics. It's all, and at the end of the day, it is money. But if you don't provide opportunities, then there is going to be no change. And that's, I think, the biggest thing, like give people opportunities and have our youth prepared to take advantage of those opportunities, training programs, getting them up to snuff, certifications, so that these opportunities can be taken advantage of. And if there's more opportunities where you don't need a certification, you don't need, you just need a good working hand, and those opportunities need to be handed out, because that person gets money, that money goes back into the community. They're paying rent, they're paying, they're buying a property in New Haven, or they're sustaining their mortgage or helping out their parents. That job locally puts money right back into our communities versus taking it out and moving it somewhere else.
You brought up a good point. You said we talking about solutions, because we have a major problem with crime, gun violence, with our youth in our city, but we also got a major problem with the lack of jobs for them.
Yeah, lack of opportunity.
Yeah. So and I'm not saying that that it's right that they're out here doing what they're doing. No, but I'm also saying it's not right that there are dollars that are available that could be used to train and teach these youth in our city to be doing some of the work that's being done. Because when you ride around and you see a lot of young white kids, you see older white men, white women on these construction jobs that don't live in this city, that go home and are capable of paying their mortgages, sending their kids to school, to college. We need to understand that these jobs are good paying jobs. Why we can't identify some kids, get them out the street, train them, put them on these jobs, and they could be like a beacon. Because what happens is,
and you only need one
kids,
example.
yeah,
You need
other
one
kids
example.
see them and they're like, wait a minute, such and such, you know what I mean?
He made it.
He made it. You know what I mean? Look at him. He got a car. He got his own place.
And
now.
that's what
He
people
about to
see.
buy a house. They see that. So when you talking and and you're able to tell somebody the path they could take to get where they get, you can say what you want to say about me. I know how to get from where I was at to where I'm at, and I could tell you exactly how. And construction has always done it for me.
Can we talk about something about not being afraid of working hard or hard work? And in the actuality, that's something that may be perceived as hard work really isn't. Can you attest to that?
Well, here's what I'm gonna say. Your work ethic is very important. You cannot work when you want to work. When somebody is offering you employment, it's hard for me looking to hire somebody and they tell me when they can work. Just me growing up, I never was able to do that. It's like, if you want to work, show up, and show up when I need you. What people need to understand about a construction job is that the definition of construction is helping. It's usually about building something. And when you're building something, you're constructing something, there's a lot of parts that's part of that project. But as that project is built, you get paid. So people who just want to come to work a couple of hours, I'm saying to myself, are you coming to work to make a couple of dollars, or are you coming to work to help me get something done so I could get paid? Because I get paid because it's getting done. If it's not done, I'm not getting paid. So if you come and work the hours you work, but your hours ain't helping me get it done, what is the purpose of me hiring you? So I just think that the mindset, the thinking needs to change. It should not be you telling me, well, I could work a couple of days a week. Like,
no, because your project is timely, and you sometimes you got to go 7-8 days a week to make sure it's done by that deadline.
Right. And
as weekends included.
Yeah.
As weekends, because right now a lot of these kids, they don't want to work weekends. They don't want to work nights. You know, I can't do that. Yeah, I need my.
But their future, with rents being what they are,
cost of living,
gas, everything. You know, you got to figure out to make some serious money. And you're right. Like being a boss, you make good money being a boss. But in order to be a boss, I told this young man the other day, and I had to pull him over. No, he pulled next to me, and I said to him that you looking a lot better than the last time I saw you. And what's going on? And he told me, and I looked at him. I said, you know, you're not gonna be able to work for somebody, especially to look like me, because when he worked with me, it was always a debate, always a conflict. And I told him, but that's okay. I said, but what you need to at least learn is, you need to learn what I know. Then you could be a boss. So how about just humbling yourself just to learn what you need to learn to be a boss? Because you're not going to be able to work for nobody, because you just, you know, it's like oil and water. But you might be a good boss, but you won't be able to work for nobody. And I think that some black men get confused in what being in the street and being business. Being business is totally different than the street. So when somebody talking to a black person on a job and you feel like, oh, they talking to you a certain way, it's not street, it's a job. It's somebody, a boss, trying to get you to get done what they need to get done. And I think a lot of times when you look at where people are in life, they're there because they got themselves there. You know, years ago I worked for somebody, and I'm gonna be honest with you, they called me a dumb end.
Before we get into this, I just want to remind everyone right now, before we get into this part of the story, we're listening to 103.5 FM WNHH. This is Keeping 100 with Jose Candelario. We're talking to Rodney Williams, and we're sharing a little bit of what it takes to become a leader, and he's sharing a little bit about his background. And so you said someone called you a dumb N on the work site.
Yeah, it was my boss. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't say that he was a racist. He actually helped me get my first car back when I brought my Maxima. He helped me co-sign for that. When I first got married, got my first apartment. My second daughter, was actually named after his wife. But what I learned was that sometimes you got to take some things to take care of your family. And I had kids, and that bothered me. But what I said was, I learned what I learned. And he said to me, he said, you know, I'm going to teach you what I know, then you're going to leave me. And I said, no, I'm just going to learn enough, then I'm going to leave you. And me and him always had a good relationship. He taught me a lot.
Wow.
But I had to go through what I had to go through. Tyler Perry said, you got to go through what you got to go through to get what you got to get. And most people who are successful that make it to another level, they all got a story, what they went through. Nobody don't know unless they tell it. But the truth is, you got to be willing to go through. And
people look at you and now they're seeing you for the first time thinking it's an overnight success, but it's 20 years in the making.
Even the community stuff, like there's a lot of behind the scene, lot of meetings.
You're involved in a lot of decision making in the city, even as a businessman. You might not hold these political positions, you might not be ahead of these action networks and programs and director, but you have provided solutions on so many levels in this community without a thank you. So I want to say thank you to you personally, because you've been a great influence in my life. I'm
going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you there's a lot of people who are holding political position that make a lot of decisions. But there are a lot of people in this city that don't hold no position, that people respect enough to bounce ideas back and forth with them because of the fact they give good solutions to problems. And that's what I do.
You do that.
I do that.
And
I don't,
let me say,
I don't get credit for a lot that I do because a lot is behind the scenes. But
yeah, I would like to share that. You do that. And even for a person like me who we're different industries. I'm into the entertainment world, but you still provide great counsel and wisdom. Even you know how to transfer those skills. You know how to apply it to like everything. And you bring answers and you bring solutions. And let me tell you, I wouldn't have been as successful as I am in the past 6-7 months without some of your counsel, because you give great advice. You give great advice and answers.
Jose, what I'm gonna tell you is this: there's a lot of people in this city that don't know too much about me. They just think I talk a lot. But there's some people in this city that had problems. They got a chance to talk to me and realize that I know how to solve problems. Wendell Harp taught me years ago, and I thank him for the time that he spent and put in me. He taught me that I used to always want to talk to him, and he used to be like, I'm busy. And one day I was like, dag, big guy, you ain't got no time to, to talk to me. And he pulled me to the side. He said, Rock, there's a lot of things that go on in the course of a day. He said to me, solve the problem, come back, tell me what the problem is, and tell me the solution. So what he taught my brain was to solve problems. And I tell people that a lot of problems I solve, they don't even be my problems. I could be with you, you talk, and my brain listen. And as long as it sounds good, it'll go through my ear. If it don't sound good, my brain grab it, chop it up, because it was trained to solve problems. And I want to thank the late Wendell Hart for that. And
just to have that mindset. That mindset is so important, because we live in a part of society where people are always complaining. They're always complaining. And the easiest thing to do is complain, saying that people aren't doing their jobs, they aren't making the right decisions. But there's another that when you're called upon, that you actually give attention. You give undivided attention and wise counsel to anyone that brings you a true problem or something that's tangible within their reach too, because it's not like, I would be a superstar. You're not involved with that, but I need to get to this next level. I need to make this next move. How do I go about it? And you're right there.
It's sad that there are a lot of people in this community that are in position to do more, to help problem solve more. But they're not. They feel like they're safe. And feel like they made it, and I just honestly feel like if God help you get where you got, you don't necessarily got to pull nobody up.
No.
Throw the ladder back.
Yep, there you go. That's it.
You
Throw
got
the
the
rope.
ladder.
Throw the
Throw the
rope.
rope.
You
Throw the
throw the
ladder.
rope. You don't even got to put your hand out.
Yeah,
They'll climb themselves
let them
up.
pull themselves up.
Yep.
But the truth is, you can't pull yourself up unless there's something to pull. You can't climb something. There need to be something to climb. And a lot of times, the people who make it to a certain level, they take that with them and keep it and hold it.
Yep.
Like it's a trophy.
So, yep.
No, it's not a trophy. What it is once you get what you get, you throw it back and let somebody else. And just think about that. There's levels. If people climb and throw back and keep doing that, like we always gonna be able to get higher.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, you get to a certain point, you saying why you can't get no higher because the people on a higher level than you, they doing what you know
What
what
you're
I mean?
doing.
What you're doing.
Yeah, it turns into
we keep ourselves back.
because people get to a position is about self-perseverance, right? They're like, this is mine. I'm not going. I can't let you take my position. I can't teach you to take me out. So they don't educate the next person or at least give them the tools. Like you say, just throw a rope back. Yeah. You don't have to teach them
and it's funny
everything
that
you
do.
do.
Because that's what we have with the politics.
Yeah.
That the youth that need to come up, the older people, not throwing the rope back for them to come up.
Yeah, because they got that position of power. They're in that position. They can educate and help, but feeling threatened or whatever.
Listen, there's no need. I don't understand how a politician should feel like he should die in office.
Mm-hmm. True.
That sounds crazy.
True, and in New Haven politics is like that. I mean, look how long the Stefano was in power. Look how long some of the aldermen been in power, and they don't take the time. They're selective in who they pick and choose to help versus educate everybody at this. Get anyone that wants to be interested in politics and let them help them get a leg up.
Listen, the youth is about their future. If anything. If I could tell you just to listen to one thing that I say and nothing else I say to you, go vote.
Go vote.
One time.
Get out. If all in New Haven, people 30 and under, let's say 18 to, right, legal age 18 to 30, that's a huge voting pool. I mean, that elects an alderman. That's a difference in the next mayoral campaign.
That's everything.
It's a huge difference.
Every position, that's alderman, co-chair, mayor, state rep, senator.
And they understand that when we elect a mayor, when you elect someone of that position, that person provides a lot of jobs. That person has a power to anoint a chief of staff. These are all positions that are turned over during that, that time.
Here's what happens. It's a certain amount of jobs that are actually created and available. To me, it's not just about jobs. It's about creating a future. You know what I mean? Like programs and there's a lot of other avenues that they control that the youth don't have a voice. And by voting, they would have that voice. And a lot of the programs that they need, they could get. So they're jobs that they might not be able to get, but the future investment that they need for them to become who they become will be based on them getting the vote out.
We are running out of time here. We've been talking solutions, and I appreciate that. One of the few people I talk to daily almost right now that is always thinking about the future, always thinking about the youth. You've taken this struggle, this challenge, you put it on your back, you're carrying the load. I appreciate you, Rodney Williams. You've been listening to Keeping It 100 with Jose Candelario here at 103.5 FM, New Haven Independent. Parting shot, you already said that you challenge everyone to go out and vote. Any last thoughts before we part?
My last thing is I'm gonna go back to the violence in the city of New Haven. I suggest that people reach out to the governor, reach out and ask him to help us. The only way we can get help is the consequences of you carrying a gun. Let's step that bar up. And I think that right there is a solution to gun violence right now. Because if you put the bond up or make no bond, that person have to have a seat for a minute.
And think about it.
Yeah.
Think about it, because when the bond's up,
Yeah.
there's less people showing up to pull you out too, because there ain't nobody got it normally to help you get out that situation.
Yeah. And the governor could donate. The governor also, identify, we got major cities and we all got the same problem. Why don't we, identify some resources, task force put together. Like they have task force here. But like I tell the chief, if you had a bigger net, you catch more fish. So although they catching fish with the net they got, if they had more resources to get a bigger net, we would get more fish. And the fish I'm talking about is the kids is out here doing the crime, doing the killing. We need to get them off the street. And for those parents that feel like they got a problem with me saying, I'm saying, hey, I'm speaking for the parents that lost kids, and I'm speaking for the parents that until this stop, they still getting shot right now.
There you go. And that demographic is changing. There's from what I heard, that there are now more females getting involved.
Yeah.
And I don't know. What was the answer? We have solutions. I mean, this is one step forward. I think you
One of the solutions is, you know what I mean?
Bigger net, more resources for the police department, higher bonds. I mean, those are great suggestions.
And you could.
And that can happen today.
Yeah.
Those are changes we can make today.
Yeah. The governor could,
Overnight.
look at this. Because I hate to make it black and white, but I would like to ask this. If white kids was getting shot this in these cities,
it went change with
because
fast.
Listen,
fast.
When we was on dope, we was doing the dope lean. It was funny. When white kids got on dope, it's an epidemic. So it seemed like it's not an epidemic until it impacts
their community. Yep.
Like right now, monkeypox. You know what I mean? You see, it's getting attention. It's getting, but it's also a lot of people getting it don't look like us. But it's getting attention. And until it impacts white people sometime, we don't get the attention. But what I would say to you is this, to this community, to whoever listening, we need white people, honestly, to help save our community and help save our kids. Because when they're involved and their opinion is heard,
changes fast.
Yeah.
Changes much quicker. Thank you, Rodney, for your time. Thank you very much for all the information. You've been listening to Keeping It 100 with Jose Candelario on the NewHavenIndependent.org, 103.5 FM, WNHH. I want to thank La Voz Hispana for letting me be on loan as a talent to the New Haven Independent. Also to Mr. Harry Draws, who is the machine, the power, the brain behind the system here. I appreciate all your help, and Mr. Paul Bass for the opportunity. And again, Mr. Rodney Williams, Rock, as he is known in our community, thank you very much for your time. I know you got to get back to work, and it's been a while.
Listen, I'll always find time to help the community.
And you do that. Thank you very much. With that said, until next time, I'm Jose. Have a great day.
Dicen que tú eres el mejor del barrio. Dicen que tú eres el mejor del barrio. Que tú dirijas y que bien todo compones. Mentiras tuyas, solo mentiras, porque en el barrio hay mucha alegría.